Hello everyone and welcome to FX Reboot. This week we have the distinct pleasure of exploring a film from one of the greatest movie franchises of all time, Indiana Jones. Guys, I don't think the slider gag is really working. Indiana Jones has been rated the second greatest fictional hero of all time, surpassed only by Sherlock Holmes. So it's no surprise that when Harrison Ford reprised his iconic role in 2008's Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, it was a big hit. The entire Indy series is legendary for its action and adventure. And whether Dr. Jones is fighting Nazis or dodging giant rolling boulders, all his movies showcase impressive special effects. But today, we can only focus on one: building a crystal skull. When Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull was released in 2008, it had been 19 years since Harrison Ford last played Dr. Jones on the big screen. The film acknowledges Ford's age by setting the story in 1957, which is exactly 19 years after the story of the previous film, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, was set. Like all Indiana Jones films, this newest installment was directed by Steven Spielberg and produced by George Lucas. Joining these two filmmaking titans was an impressive cast, including Shia LaBeouf, Cate Blanchett, John Hurt, and reprising her role as Marion from Raiders of the Lost Ark, Karen Allen. To make this new Indiana Jones movie feel like all the rest, Spielberg didn't just dust off the old leather jacket, hat, and bullwhip. He had to try and mimic his own style from decades past, and to help, he had his cinematographer carefully study the previous films and tried to use as little CGI special effects as possible. One of those special effects, a crystal skull. First, we're gonna look and see how the professionals created their crystal skulls. Then, see how close I can come to replicating their work using items you can buy at a hardware store. The idea for the crystal skull in Indiana Jones is based on a number of real-life crystal skulls discovered in the early 19th century and claimed to be thousands of years old. For the fictional version of these skulls, Spielberg turned to one of the best prop-making houses in the business, Stan Winston Studios. Working closely with Spielberg, artists used 3D software to first sculpt the crystal skull in the computer. Once they were happy with the design, prop artists had to quickly turn the digital version into a physical prop. The real-life crystal skulls, on which the story is based, are carved out of a single piece of clear quartz. So Stan Winston's team, using a complicated molding process, cast their crystal skulls out of water-clear urethane. These new skulls were lighter, stronger, and much faster to produce.
The skull's crystal stimulates an undeveloped part of the human brain, opening a psychic channel. Surely you're not afraid, Dr. Jones?
That's enough.
To create a low-budget version of the Indiana Jones crystal skull is no easy task. In fact, this isn't the first time I've tried. In the weeks leading up to the release of the film, I attempted to make the same build, and pretty much failed. I tried my best to sculpt the prop out of clay, but because images of the skull were closely guarded at the time, I couldn't get the shape just right. And after that, it got even worse. When some of my molding materials didn't play nice together, I ended up with a toxic wad of sticky resin that looked nothing like a skull. I cast my second skull in wax, but this one was also deformed and not clear or shiny at all. This time, I went about it a totally different way and decided to use a technique called vacuum forming. The basic idea of this process is to heat up a sheet of plastic and with the help of some powerful suction, form that plastic into the shape of your choice. In our case, a crystal skull. The good news about vacuum forming is I could use clear plastic sheets, so I knew my skull would be shiny and clear. The bad news is I had to build the entire vacuum forming machine. I won't bore you with all the details, but suffice it to say I had to build a vacuform table, a simple oven to heat the plastic sheets, and then a special frame to hold those sheets. With my original clay sculpture in hand, I was ready to start vacuforming. First, my thin plastic sheet needed to be held tightly inside the wooden frame. I placed the plastic over the heat source until it was soft enough. Then, I quickly walked over to the vacuform table, placed it over the sculpture, and as soon as the seal was airtight, the plastic conformed around the skull. I did 3 passes on the machine, making 2 molds of the top half of the skull, then 1 of the bottom. After some trimming, I was able to glue these 3 pieces together into 1 complete skull. To fill out the center and give it more of a faceted look, I filled the inside with a bunch of wadded up plastic wrap. The final product, I think, turned out pretty good. When you hold it up close in real life, it obviously falls short of a real quartz skull. It's super light, it's got some visible seams, and not a ton of detail. But even with the cost of building the entire vacuforming table, which you can use over and over again, it was still cheaper and faster than casting in urethane.
The skull's crystal stimulates an undeveloped part of the human brain, opening a psychic channel. Surely you're not afraid, Dr. Jones. You've spent your entire life searching for answers. Think of the truth behind those eyes.
If you take a look at our low-budget crystal skull side by side with the one Stan Winston Studios created, you really can't compare. Our DIY version gets the point across and can look great with the right lighting, but the crystal skull the pros created is a masterpiece. It looks great from every angle, and in certain scenes, it simply steals the show, which is exactly what the title prop in an Indiana Jones film needs to be able to do. To catch all the special effects, action, and adventure that Indiana Jones in the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull has to offer, remember that you can watch it right here on FX. I'm Eric Beck, and I'll see you next time on FX Reboot.